After being reborn, I found myself back on the day when Mom came to ask me to sign a guarantee agreement. I had just returned home from work when Mom and Uncle Mike, like two hunters lying in wait, pulled me onto the sofa.
Sweetheart, your cousin Tom is getting married soon. Uncle Mike wants to buy him a wedding house. Mom isn't trying to exploit you. You're Mom's flesh and blood, and Mom cares about you. We just want you to help by signing a guarantee agreement so Uncle Mike can get a loan from the bank.
Mom, Mary Johnson, wore a gentle expression, as if she truly cared about me. Uncle Mike, sitting next to Mom, looked equally embarrassed, rubbing the hem of his shirt continuously, as if he was really in trouble and needed my help. If I hadn't been reborn and known that this was just a charade, I would have fallen for their scheme again. In my previous life, I couldn't resist their emotional manipulation and thought it was just a simple guarantee agreement. I never expected that their actions would lead to my wedding house being auctioned by the bank, causing my fiancé John to take his own life, and I followed suit. Every time I think about it, I can't suppress the anger in my heart. In fact, thinking back, it seems like it has always been this way. Mom preferred sons but ended up with me, a daughter. Dad had no say in the family, so Mom openly showered all her love on her favorite nephew. I still remember when I graduated from high school and was about to go to college. Mom forced me to drop out to gather tuition fees for cousin Tom to attend a prestigious middle school. If it weren't for my fiancé John working to support my education, I might have ended up as a poor laborer at the bottom of society. More likely, I would have been exploited by Mom and Uncle Mike for a lifetime, never seeing the light of day. However, the one they cherished so much dropped out after middle school, spent a few years drifting, and then suddenly came back saying he got someone pregnant and needed to get married. It's laughable. I pushed aside the chaotic memories, forcibly suppressing the anger in my heart, and smiled apologetically at Mom.
Mom, if Uncle Mike is in trouble, of course, as his niece, I should help. But, to sign a guarantee agreement, there needs to be something to guarantee. I don't have a penny to my name, so what can I use as collateral?
Don't you have a house in your name? The one your fiancé bought for you?
As expected, they had planned everything. Mom realized something was wrong and quickly shot Uncle Mike a look, then turned to smile at me.
Sweetheart, don't overthink it. Uncle Mike just wants to get the loan from the bank quickly to renovate the house. You know, your cousin's girlfriend is already expecting, and the wedding needs to happen soon.
They made it sound so reasonable. I'd be foolish to believe them. Besides, cousin Tom's so-called pregnant girlfriend is actually a professional scammer, targeting naive young men like him who can't legally marry her. And the baby she claims to carry is a lie. In my previous life, her scam left Uncle Mike's family in ruins, and they turned to exploit me and my fiancé John even more, driving us to despair. How could I let history repeat itself in this life? I continued to smile apologetically.
Mom, I understand Uncle Mike's urgency to buy a wedding house for cousin Tom, but that house was bought with Alex Smith's parents' lifelong savings. They wrote it in my name out of respect, but I can't make decisions about it on my own.
Uncle Mike, who was not very tactful, showed his displeasure immediately upon hearing this. His face darkened, and he muttered,
Just a delivery guy. Using his house as collateral is a favor to him. Now he's lying in the hospital like a useless person. Only someone blind would be interested in him.
Uncle Mike's words were harsh, and he stormed out of my house. Mom's face also showed some displeasure.
Sweetheart, you are being unreasonable. Uncle Mike is family. If family doesn't help each other in times of need, who will? And your fiancé, he's just a delivery guy. Can he really match up to you, a graduate student? If you use his house, do you think his family would object?
Mom was indeed cunning. Even after I made my stance clear, she wouldn't let it go. Family? Don't make me laugh. Where was my family when I couldn't afford college tuition? A delivery guy? My 7 years of continuous study were supported by this delivery guy's unwavering dedication. Isn't that enough?
Mom, I have some urgent work at the office. Let's discuss this another day.
I didn't want to argue with her any longer. I grabbed my bag and headed to the hospital. My fiancé had an accident while delivering food and had a steel plate inserted in his leg. I needed to check on him. The benefits of being reborn, besides recognizing who my true family is, also included knowing many future events of various companies. Using my past life's memories, I successfully negotiated several deals, quickly becoming noticeable in the company. My boss immediately arranged for a promotion and a raise. I applied to my boss, hoping that if I continued to perform well, I could be transferred to a branch office in another city.
You've done great work. A transfer is definitely possible. Keep it up.
This was my backup plan to distance myself from my mom and Uncle Mike's family. Only then could I focus on my plans for retribution. After seeing my fiancé, I didn't dwell on emotions. I simply advised him not to pay attention to anything my mom said or did and to leave as soon as his leg healed. I also hoped he could contact buyers in advance to sell the house so we could move to another city. Because after my next transfer, my salary would become quite substantial. With the money from selling this house, buying a better one in a big city wouldn't be a problem.
Don't worry about it. I'll handle everything. Just focus on your work.
My fiancé loved me deeply and didn't doubt my words, assuring me not to worry. After some time, my mom visited me a few times, still hoping I would sign the guarantee agreement, but I refused each time. We didn't contact each other after that, and our relationship became strained. However, I enjoyed the rare peace and took good care of my fiancé, making up for my past life's wrongs. It wasn't until Cousin Tom's deceptive fiancé wanted to get engaged that my mom contacted me again.
Daughter, are you still mad at Mom? Last time, Mom didn't think it through. Well, your cousin is getting engaged next week. As his sister, could you arrange a banquet to celebrate? It's not too much to ask, right?
Wow, they really want to squeeze every bit out of me. But to play along, I pretended to reluctantly agree. Sometimes you have to give a little to get more. Besides, they might not even get that money from me. I also took this opportunity to meet this deceptive bride. As soon as I got home, I was stunned. What was going on? In my past life, because of my guarantee, Uncle Mike took out a loan to buy a new house, a villa on East Hill. We met there before the engagement. This time, without the loan, they came to my house. The master bedroom became Cousin Tom's room, my room turned into Uncle Mike's, and my parents replaced the living room sofa with a foldable one that could be turned into a bed at night. Had my house been robbed while I was away for a few days?
You don't come home often. I gave away your useful things and threw out the useless ones. The room was empty anyway, so I let your uncle stay here.
Wow, so I'm just an outsider now? Soon, the deceptive bride Jessica Taylor arrived with her actor parents. Jessica wore a tight dress today, clearly showing a slight bulge in her abdomen, which I guessed was intentionally padded. She was really putting in the effort. Sure enough, Uncle Mike beamed when he saw Jessica's belly and quickly welcomed the family inside.
This is our old house. The new one is ready, just waiting for them to get married and move in.
Uncle Mike acted like a sycophant from a wartime drama, squinting and smiling obsequiously, almost ready to lick their boots. My mom was also exceptionally attentive, helping them hang their coats and serving tea, like a longtime servant. But according to Uncle Mike, how did my childhood home become his? I looked at Dad, who sighed helplessly and sat silently in a corner of the living room.
Everyone, sit for a while. My daughter has already arranged the engagement banquet. We'll go straight to dinner later.
Thank you, cousin.
She held her waist with one hand and touched her belly with the other, acting so elegantly that she seemed like a noble lady. Truly professional. I took out a Bulgari necklace I bought for $9.99 on Pinduoduo and handed it to her. Here, sister-in-law, this is a gift from me. Don't mind its simplicity. Jessica recognized it as Bulgari but couldn't tell if it was real. She beamed with joy and thanked me cheerfully. At this moment, Cousin Tom came out, looking like a sycophant, holding Jessica's hand affectionately.
You two go first. Let Tom drive you.
Using cousin's car, what about her?
Jessica, don't worry. Your cousin and Tom are closer than siblings. This car is a wedding gift for you. We'll take a taxi.
How shameless. In my past life, they forced me to sell this car to pay off debts. Now, in this reborn life, they're targeting it again. Fine, if that's the case, don't blame me for being ruthless. Cousin Tom and Jessica left happily, and my mom said to the remaining people,
Let's go too. Daughter, call a taxi.
They really wanted to squeeze every bit out of me. But I remained calm. Calling a taxi was fine, it gave me a chance to go downstairs first. I quickly dialed a number. Hello, traffic police? I'd like to report someone driving without a license. Yes, the license plate is XXXXX05, heading to the Past Hotel. When we arrived at the hotel by taxi, Cousin Tom and Jessica Taylor were still nowhere in sight, making Uncle Mike and my mom a bit worried.
Clee Mike's phone rang.
Hello, is this Tom's guardian?
Uncle Mike hesitated but confirmed.
This is the Traffic Police Department. We need some information from you. Is the car your son was driving yours?
The hotel was quiet, so everyone could hear the conversation clearly, even though Uncle Mike wasn't on speakerphone.
Clee Mike looked at me, but before he could respond, my mom rushed forward.
Yes, we gave the car to Tom. It's ours. What's the matter?
Hearing this, I felt relieved. As long as it wasn't pinned on me, I didn't care. Serves them right for being greedy. Now I was glad the car was theirs.
Your son has been detained for 15 days for driving without a license and fined 1,500 yuan. As his guardians, knowing he didn't have a license and still lending him the car, you are also fined 2,000 yuan. Please come to the Traffic Police Department when you can.
The officer hung up, leaving Uncle Mike and my mom staring at each other.
Daughter, look at this mess. How did lending a car to your cousin end up with fines? Can you go to the Traffic Police Department and handle this for him?
Sometimes I really couldn't stand my mom's scheming nature, always pretending to be a good mother while being so hypocritical. It made me sick. When she answered the officer, she was so afraid of saying the car was mine, trying to get a free car for her nephew. Now that it's time to pay the fines, suddenly the car is mine again.
Mom, the police already confirmed with Uncle Mike. If I go, they won't recognize me, and it won't work. You have to go yourselves.
My mom put on her usual fake, pitiful smile and was about to say something when I grabbed my bag and stood up.
Looks like we won't be having this meal today. Jessica is probably stranded somewhere because of Cousin Tom. I'll go find her.
With that, I quickly left, saving myself the cost of the meal. Perfect. A small victory, but it was far from avenging my past grievances. This was just an appetizer. Jessica Taylor might have gotten my contact info from Cousin Tom and messaged me. I quickly took a taxi to find her. It seemed she liked the fake Bulgari necklace I gave her. It wasn't a waste. When I saw Jessica, she was already wearing the 9.9 yuan necklace around her neck. Despite being left on the street, she didn't seem angry.
Let's go, Jessica. Tom's been detained. We probably can't get anything done today. Let me take you shopping.
Jessica was delighted and readily agreed. In her eyes, I must be a big spender, and she was probably planning to take advantage of me. But I didn't intend to invest much in her. I just needed to achieve my goal. I took her to a large mall where you shop first and pay later. As soon as we entered, I told her to pick whatever she wanted. Jessica was overjoyed and started picking expensive items without hesitation, getting closer to me and chatting non-stop. Most of it was about her and Cousin Tom's happy moments, whether real or made up to please me. I sighed.
Jessica, I can tell you're a good girl from a respectable family, and we get along well. So I'll be honest with you. My uncle's family isn't well off. The house you saw today actually belongs to us.
Jessica was stunned, and I could see the barely concealed anger in her eyes.
But they told me they were buying a villa in East Hill.
She was anxious, and I was secretly pleased. My performance was working. I held Jessica's hand, pretending to be concerned for her.
Jessica, you might not know this area well. East Hill is far from the city. Have you considered how inconvenient it would be to live there? That's why the so-called villas there are cheap. Otherwise, why would they buy one for you?
As I spoke, I added a few expensive cosmetics to Jessica's shopping cart. This gesture made her feel even more connected to me, and she asked me what she should do. I leaned in and whispered.
My uncle's family is very shrewd. Even if they buy a house, they won't put your name on it. You need to take the initiative. There's a real estate office on the second floor of this mall selling proper school district houses with complete amenities. Check it out and then talk to my uncle. And don't forget, you have the baby as leverage.
I hinted, lightly touching her belly. But it was definitely padded. Jessica was overjoyed and dragged me to the second floor. I smiled apologetically, saying I was tired and asked her to go up alone while I waited. Seeing my goal achieved, I couldn't stay there any longer. If I had to pay for all the items in the cart, I'd be broke. I quickly made my escape, sending Jessica a message as I left.
The traffic police urgently need me. I'll handle it and take you shopping another day.
Successfully dodged the bill. About half a week later, my mom called me again, her tone as insincere as ever.
Sweetie, have you been busy lately? Your dad and I miss you. Why don't you come home for a few days?
Miss me? If I hadn't already been through a life-altering experience, I might have believed her. After all, what mother doesn't miss her daughter? But now, my heart is as hard as concrete. I no longer dare to hope for this so-called motherly love.
Mom, my room has already been given to Uncle Mike. There's nothing in the house that belongs to me anymore. Why should I come back?
My mom paused for a long time, then let out an awkward laugh. I could hear the embarrassment in her voice.
Sweetie, I know I didn't handle things well before. I've rented a room downstairs for you. Considering cousin Tom's marriage, as his older sister, you should be more understanding.
I agreed this time, but not because she convinced me. It was just part of my plan. As soon as I got home, my mom stopped me downstairs and led me to the rented room. It was one of those partitioned rooms created by rental agencies, dividing a proper 3-bedroom apartment into several small rooms with foam walls. You could hear everything from the neighboring rooms. The room was barely 20 square meters, with just a double bed and a sofa.
We didn't want Jessica Taylor to feel uncomfortable with all of us around, disturbing her and Tom's life. I live close by, so it's convenient for me to take care of things. Sweetie, you can sleep on the sofa and stay with your dad and me.
I turned to look at my dad, who was sitting in the corner of the sofa, staring blankly out the window with a cigarette in his hand, the ash long and unbroken, his face full of sorrow. Yes, he once had a complete family. I sat beside him and sighed softly.
In my previous life, after I passed away, I saw my dad finally get angry and have a big fight with my mom. He was the only one who mourned my passing and took care of my final arrangements. So, if there's anyone in this family I can't let go of, it's him. I want to help him escape this misery too.
My mom sat close to me, holding my hand as if we were having a family chat.
Sweetie, I know it was wrong of me to ask you to sign that guarantee agreement before. I didn't think it through and made things difficult for you. Today, I need a small favor from you.
I knew it. She never comes to me without a reason. I've seen through her long ago. And she never says what she wants directly, always dragging people in front of her to talk. I stayed silent, waiting for her to continue. My mom awkwardly laughed again, starting with stories about how Uncle Mike was so good to me when I was little, whether true or not, I couldn't remember. When her small talk was about to make me lose patience, she finally got to the point.
Well, you didn't agree to sign the guarantee last time. A few days ago, Jessica Taylor came back and insisted that Uncle Mike buy them a new house, and it has to be a villa. You know Uncle Mike's financial situation, it's really difficult. Mom thought, since you recently got promoted, you must have some money. How about giving $500,000 to help your cousin?
So now, instead of targeting my house, she wants me to give $500,000 directly? Mom, how do you come up with so many ways to exploit your daughter? What does someone else's marriage have to do with you? And $500,000, not as a loan but as a gift? Do I owe you?
Mom, it's true I got promoted recently, but Alex Smith's hospital expenses are also significant. I've put all my money into the hospital, so I'm not financially comfortable right now.
Hearing this, my mom couldn't hold back anymore. She jumped up.
What? You spent all the money on that delivery guy? Are you out of your mind? Can't you tell what's important? Who is your real family? Why are you always siding with outsiders? I raised you for nothing, you ungrateful child.
The more she scolded, the more agitated she became, clearly having held it in for a long time. This is her true face behind the fake smile. I actually prefer seeing her like this, at least it doesn't make me feel as disgusted.
If you love your brother and nephew so much, why don't you mortgage your house to buy them a new one? Better yet, sell the house and give them all the money.
I should be angry, but I felt calm. I picked up my bag and turned to leave. Just then, a man in a suit, looking like a real estate agent, approached.
Hello, are you the daughter of the elderly couple here? They rented a partitioned room from me, saying you'd pay the rent when you arrived. It's a 3-year lease, totaling $58,000. Will you be paying by cash or card?
Indeed, a real estate agent. The young man smiled at me, holding a POS machine. I turned to look at my mom, who was still scolding me, and gave her a smile.
I underestimated you.
My mom, caught between scolding me and dealing with the agent, looked conflicted, her expression shifting between anger and a forced smile, clearly at a loss. But she still managed to squeeze out an awkward smile.
Sweetie, if you won't help your cousin, you can at least help your parents, right?
Why wouldn't I? Why should I?
With that, I walked past the agent and left. In the hallway, my mom's hysterical screams echoed.
Smoke, smoke, all you do is smoke. Look at the daughter you raised, she doesn't even acknowledge us. And you still have the nerve to smoke here. I'm telling you, I'm selling the house today. If Tom can't get married, we're done. Divorce.
Sigh. My dad has suffered under my mom's torment his whole life. Hearing these hurtful words, my heart ached. I took out my phone and sent my dad a message.
Dad, if you feel you can't stay at home anymore, I'll take care of you. Alex Smith is a good person, you know that. He'll treat you well too.
Just then, my phone rang.
Hello? Oh, it's Lily. How's the villa deal going?
A joyful voice came through the phone.
Oh my gosh, sis, I really have to thank you. I never thought we'd close this deal after the developer bailed, but you made it happen. You're my lucky star.
I smiled slightly, everything was going according to plan.
As long as the deal is done. Make sure to send me my commission.
Don't worry, sis, not a penny less.
After that day, my mom really sold our house to help Jessica Taylor and cousin Tom with the down payment for a villa. Over $1 million, just enough for 40% of the down payment. They still had loans to pay off. I wondered what else they had to mortgage. After thinking it over, I guessed the only valuable things left were the few pieces of Ming Dynasty jewelry passed down from my grandmother. But those were my dad's treasures. Could she really have done that? 2 days later, I was at the hospital taking care of my fiancé. He was recovering well and could already walk. Soon, we could leave together. He had sold his house, and my in-laws had taken the money and left first. Just then, my dad arrived. He looked even older than the last time I saw him, his hair completely white, his body hunched over. Yes, anyone would look worn out after a lifetime of being drained by my mom and Uncle Mike.
Dad, you.
As soon as I spoke, my dad burst into tears, unable to speak. My fiancé and I helped him to a chair. After a while, he calmed down and told us what happened.
Your mom not only sold the house, but also pawned the family heirlooms left by your grandmother. I confronted her, and she threatened me with divorce. I agreed. She went through with it, and I left with nothing.
As he spoke, maybe recalling a lifetime of grievances or feeling an unprecedented sense of relief, my dad started crying again. But my mind was clear. Now that my dad was with me, I had no more weaknesses. The plan could continue. Just then, I received a transfer from Lily for the villa deal.
Dad, keep this money. It rightfully belongs to you. I'll get those heirlooms back for you. Don't worry, we'll take care of you. Your life will only get better. Just wait and enjoy.
Hearing this, my dad's expression softened. He took out a household registration book from his pocket.
After the divorce, I secretly took the household registration book, took photos, and got a replacement at the police station. I was afraid your mom would make things difficult for you. Use this to transfer your household registration.
I took the book excitedly, not having thought of this at all. My dad had thought so far ahead for me. Time flew by, and my fiancé's leg had almost fully recovered. He and Dad had left together. During this period, I was working on 2 critical deals, and the entire company was watching me. However, I didn't feel much pressure. With my past life's memories, these tasks were easy for me to handle.
Linda, come in. I want to discuss your recent performance.
The boss praised my work and started the process to transfer me to a branch office in another city, where my new home would be. Now, I was the only one left here, preparing for the final stage of the plan. After all the groundwork, it was finally time to reel in the net. That day, while I was handling the handover procedures, my mom called.
Sweetie, how's your fiancé's recovery going?
Based on my calculations, they must be under a lot of pressure with the mortgage payments. She was probably calling because they needed money.
Mom, just tell me what you need.
She chuckled awkwardly.
Sweetie, your dad had an accident at the sales office a few days ago and is now in the hospital. You know our financial situation is tight. Can you send some money for his treatment?
An accident? Oh right, the developer probably stopped construction and they were worried. I felt a secret satisfaction, but I also knew Dad hadn't had any accident. He was traveling out of town with my fiancé.
Mom, why are you asking me? Don't you have a precious nephew? You care so much about him. Why isn't he helping you now?
Tom has been busy taking care of Jessica. It's understandable that he can't help. You're not under much pressure, so can't you help your parents out?
Mom, I really can't bear to see you suffer. How about this? Send me the medical records and bills, and I'll transfer the money. You know, I'm also tight on money right now.
Hearing this, Mom got furious. She couldn't get a doctor to fake medical records, and she couldn't even reach Dad.
You heartless ingrate! Aren't you afraid of karma? You give money to some stranger for treatment, but when your dad is sick, you make excuses. I should have never had you.
Her words grew harsher, so I hung up. They were at their wits' end, and I just needed to push a little more for things to fall into place. I knew she would come to me eventually. That day, I had just finished the paperwork at the police station to transfer my household registration and was planning to buy some things at the supermarket to send to my fiancé and Dad. On the way, I ran into an old acquaintance, Jessica Taylor.
Good girl, it's been a while. You are the final piece of my plan. I thought you wouldn't show up.
Jessica had been pretending to deceive Uncle Mike's family, and it must have been exhausting. Her belly was padded to look like she was far along in a pregnancy. As soon as she saw me, she rushed over, her eyes filled with unmasked anger.
You lied to me.
She accused me bluntly, without any pretense. I looked at her calmly, with only a smile on my face.
The necklace you gave me is fake. That day you took me shopping was fake too. You even tricked me into buying a half-finished house. We have no grudges, yet you dare to deceive me like this. Do you know I'm carrying Uncle Mike's family bloodline? If anything happens to me out of anger, can you bear the consequences?
I chuckled and shook my head. This girl was still too young.
First, do you not see what kind of relationship I have with Uncle Mike's family? Even if something happens to you, even if their whole family perishes, do you think it would affect me in the slightest?
Jessica was momentarily speechless, her previous aggression significantly diminished. I held up 2 fingers and waved them in front of her.
Second, do you think I don't know whether this so-called bloodline is real or not, Helen White?
Upon hearing my last 2 words, Jessica, no, Helen, couldn't hold back her fear. She even took a step back uncontrollably.
How do you know my real name?
How do I know? Of course, I know. With memories from my past life, knowing you're a professional marriage scammer, how could I not investigate you? Now, all the power was in my hands.
Helen, you should know that if I can find out your real name, I know all about your past marriage scams.
I intentionally paused, and Helen indeed became anxious. She grabbed my hand and pleaded.
Cousin, just tell me what I need to do for you to let me go.
Smart girl, I like you. I lightly patted her hand and smiled.
If you want me not to call the police, fine. But I hope you continue to pressure Uncle Mike's family.
Cousin, the house you recommended is too expensive. My family really has no money left. We can't squeeze out a single penny. It's not that I don't want to help you.
No money? You can borrow. People like you, who make money unethically, must know some lenders, right? Preferably those with power and influence. Recommend a few to Uncle Mike's family, and the problem will be solved.
Helen shivered at the coldness in my words and looked at me in fear. She might not understand why I would go to such lengths against my own family. But this was a matter of life and death.
A delivery guy? My 7 years of continuous study were supported by this delivery guy's unwavering dedication. Isn't that enough? I didn't want to argue with her any longer. I grabbed my bag and headed to the hospital. My fiancé had an accident while delivering food and had a steel plate inserted in his leg. I needed to check on him. Helen White sent me a text saying she had taken care of everything. My mom, Uncle Mike, and Cousin Tom had all successfully taken out high-interest loans, and she had quietly left without taking anything. I tried calling her back, but the number was disconnected. My wife was gone, my child was gone, and the house I bought was left unfinished. I wondered if Cousin Tom, who had been pampered since childhood, could handle such a blow. As I was pondering this, Uncle Mike called. I was a bit surprised. Usually, my mom was the one to take the lead. When did Uncle Mike start dealing with me directly? I answered the call.
You worthless piece of trash.
As soon as the call connected, a furious voice spat out curses, almost as if the venom could come through the receiver. I remained calm and composed.
Uncle Mike, let's talk this through. Why are you suddenly cursing me without any reason?
Uncle Mike was clearly enraged, his words barely coherent.
You worthless scum, I'm telling you, I'm not done with you. Your mom was chased by the loan sharks yesterday and got injured. She fainted from high blood pressure and is still lying in that unfinished building. My son's wife ran away, and now he's gone mad. I have nothing left. My family is ruined. You cursed us, and now I'm going to end you. I'm going to end you.
Uncle Mike's hysterical screams showed he had completely lost his mind. This was the result I had been aiming for. Now, it was time to deal with him. I opened my social media and posted a status update. The sunshine is so beautiful today. It's been a long time since I felt this good. Planning to travel tomorrow and never come back, I made sure to tag my location and included a picture of the landmark, People's Park in the city center. It was a busy time of day. I hoped Uncle Mike's remaining sanity would catch my hint. After posting, I adjusted the protective gear I was wearing and sat quietly on a park bench, waiting for the final outcome. As the sun began to set, the park was filled with parents and children, the crowd growing denser. Suddenly, a familiar face appeared before me. But he looked much older than before, his expression twisted with rage, more terrifying than any demon I could imagine.
I'll give you sunshine. I'll give you happiness. I'm going to end you.
He roared, causing the people around to scream and scatter in fear. Uncle Mike pulled out a gleaming knife and lunged at me. I quickly ducked my head, bracing for the attack. People's Park had a high daily foot traffic, so there were always special police on duty.
I had chosen this spot carefully to give Uncle Mike enough time to attack me and the police enough time to rescue me. Thud. The first stab hit the protective gear I was wearing. He really intended to end me. My gear only protected vital areas. By then, the special police were almost there. Seeing that he didn't have enough time for a second stab, I quickly extended my arm to the blade, cutting myself. Blood immediately gushed out. The next second, Uncle Mike was subdued by the special police, pinned to the ground, his knife kicked far away.
I'll end you, you jinx. You cursed our family, ruined us. It's all your fault.
I was escorted away for a medical evaluation. It's over. Uncle Mike was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempted assault.
You're free to go. It was proven that you had nothing to do with the incident.
I only suffered minor injuries and gave a statement to Officer James. I was released from the police station that same night. Before leaving, I went to see my mom. She looked as old as if she were in her 80s. When she saw me, she didn't say anything. She just sat in the courtyard of that abandoned building, staring blankly. The walls and windows were covered in red paint, with messages demanding repayment of debts.
Wife, heh, son, heh, big house, heh.
Looking up, I saw a boy of about 17 or 18 on the second floor, unshaven and acting erratically, shouting. I thought I should feel a bit of pity at that moment, but unfortunately, I didn't. In a past life, I had fallen to such a state, and no one even glanced at me. At least I came to see her. I left 2 packs of instant noodles at the door and took a cab to the traffic police station to retrieve my car. 2 weeks later, my fiancé and I got married with my dad's blessing. 6 months later, our new home was completed. 2 years later, we welcomed a new member to our family. Dad also found a kind-hearted elderly lady and lived a happy life in his later years. I later inquired about my mom's whereabouts, but she was no longer at the abandoned building. They said she had run away with my cousin to avoid debts. I heard that Uncle Mike, due to his scheming nature, made many enemies in prison and was killed one night by a gang leader. Ha, indeed. What goes around comes around, no one escapes fate.